Welcome to Thrust, the Dance Made in Canada podcast. We're here to provide intimate insights into the perspectives of Canadian dance artists. We'll talk about why physical expression matters, what it does in our bodies when we experience it, and how it impacts our daily lives. This season, we're looking at legacy, succession planning, and knowledge sharing. Change is inevitable, but how does one prepare for it? When artistic organizations are built on an individual's vision, how do we pass along embodied knowledge and artistic vision? Or do we? Let's ask some of Canada's prominent creators now. Natasha Powell is the founder, artistic director, and choreographer of Holla Jazz. She and the company have been awarded numerous accolades, including, most recently, the Johannes Metcalf Prize in the Performing Arts. Her soulful approach to movement transcends genres, and she has created award-winning productions presenting historical jazz dances in a contemporary aesthetic. Inspired by social dances such as jazz, hip-hop, and house, Natasha shares her love for movement by supporting individuals to find their personal groove, making breakthroughs in their dancing, and ultimately experiencing joy in their bodies. Hi.
Hello.
It's so nice to sit down with you.
Yeah, you too. It's been a long time.
I know. Yeah. Speaking of long times, in our intro, I talked a little bit about change and change being inevitable. And I know that you're someone whose experience of dance and having a company, and I know you've started a family, change has been something really big in your life right now.
Yeah.
How, what season do you feel like you're sitting inside of all of this change?
Yeah, it's so interesting to think about this in the context of seasons, I guess.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing that can really prepare you for the big shifts that happen in life. So I feel like when I think about seasons, I've been reading this book by Catherine May called Wintering. And I feel like I'm slowly coming out of winter and into spring, both personally and I would say professionally.
Yeah.
My children are getting a little bit older, especially my youngest, who's now about 2.5.
Wow.
So she's less needs my body.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can have my body back a little bit more, which pairs nicely with going back into my creative work and as a choreographer and as a maker and as a teacher. So both things are sort of mirroring each other in terms of my season in life with my family. Also kind of flowers into my season in my work as a dance maker.
It's really interesting to hear you talk about winter, because when I think about winter, I think of both hibernation, but I also think of darkness. And when I think about spring, it's there's sprouts, it's getting lighter, there's birds singing in our surroundings. How would you articulate winter for yourself?
It can be a bit of that like you said, it sometimes feels lonely, but very much reflective.
Yeah.
And nourishing, and finding warmth, actually having to create it.
Yeah.
And during that time of winter, I'm reading a lot more. I'm nourishing myself a little bit differently than I would in a spring in a vibrant time.
Yeah.
So basically, winter for me was really about a lot of reading, a lot of reflection, a lot of writing, and a lot of preparation. And so nights, for example, if I'm up late with my kids and they want to sleep with me and I don't want to sleep, I've Google Books and Kindle has become my friend for research and reading and processing thoughts and reflections and journaling. So as much as I try to get away from my device at night, sometimes it's actually been my partner and my saving grace in those times when it feels dark, that I can find space to read and reflect and journal and plan for when the sun wants to emerge and the days are a little bit longer, and thinking about ahead to creative projects and teaching again. Winter kind of offers me that time and space for me to then kind of move into a new season of sharing myself a little bit more with other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing that it feels selfish because I'm like, this podcast is all about legacy. But in your relationship to being reflective and journaling, have you been pondering your connection to legacy in any way that feels emergent for you?
Ah, that's such a great question. I've never positioned myself in terms of legacy, in
Mm,
terms of the work that I do. Whenever I've thought about legacy, it's been about like the form and the
mm,
dance and the culture around the dance and the practice around the dance. But
mm.
it's never been me. Like it's never
Yeah.
been about Natasha in this legacy, right? And so when I'm thinking about my work and I'm thinking about jazz, it's like how do I continue to offer this beautiful dance that's been like
Mm,
offered and shared with me to other people in its context,
mm.
cultural context, historical context, but then also in a contemporary lens as well in terms of how people can relate to the dance today,
Yeah.
what they understand in their body, what they understand of music now, and how it relates to the dance. So when I think about legacy in that way, it's not about me, it's about the dance.
It's about the dance. And are there people that you feel like called to that have shown you what jazz can be that you want to presence?
I think for me, I always think back to those who shared the dance with me to begin with when I started, because I would say my journey with jazz started like around 2010, 11, I would
Okay.
say.
Yeah.
Um, and I was introduced to my mentor at the time. I actually met in Vancouver when I was living in Vancouver in 2009.
Hmm.
And his name is Monsell Jordan, and he's based in the United States. Right now, he's based in California
Ooh.
and somewhere much warmer. But when I met him, he was in the process of developing a documentary that looks at the lineage of African American social dance practices. And
Hmm.
for me, it really stuck with his generosity, the way he
Hmm.
shared with everyone and just so openly and honestly, and something that he was still working on, but knew that the importance of sharing.
Hmm.
And so I reached out to him again, like later on, a couple years later when we connected, and I was like, "Do you want to be my mentor? I really want to kind of get more into this jazz thing. I want to understand it
Yeah.
more because I was practicing hip hop and house at the time, and I wanted to understand more about the jazz dance connection to that." And so he just like openly said yes. So
Hmm.
when he connected me to some people in New York and the folks in New York connected me to other people, I understood like the value of sharing and
Hmm.
community building and oral tradition and how to you have to be in the spaces with folks who are practicing,
Hmm.
learning, dancing, listening, making these dances in order to sort of feel connected to sort of the legacy part that you're talking
Yeah.
about, right? And so when I realized like, oh man, I'm not experiencing this in Toronto,
Hmm.
like I want to bring this back and continue to make presentations, to make work out of
Yeah.
this dance and this style. And so that's how I sort of position um, what was offered to me and how I could share that with the broader community in Toronto.
I'm thinking now that you have young ones, were your parents connected to the arts? Is that something that you feel like is a tether through your own lineage?
Oh yeah, like without question, it's kind of it's there in the culture, like
Hmm.
dance, music, celebration, like so whether it's like birthday parties, a backyard
Yeah.
barbecue, um, a basement jam, an anniversary. Like my parents had so many things in our house growing up. Like we've had weddings in our home. Everyone's birthday was
Wow.
celebrated in our home. Like anniversaries, like milestone birthdays, and music is such a big part of who
Yeah.
we are. Whether it's like funk, disco, soca, reggae, dance hall,
Hmm.
hip hop, R&B. Like my family just music was just always in there, and so we were always dancing all the
Hmm.
time. So, but my mom was a professional dancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she danced until I would say she was probably about 17, 18. Like she was
Okay.
up there like when she was living in Grenada at the time,
Yeah.
and she got awarded a scholarship to go study in London,
Well,
but she wasn't able to go because then she became pregnant with my sister.
wow.
Yeah, and then so she moved to Canada after that. So dance is as a part of
Yeah.
her story as well. Um, but she didn't put me in dance to continue
Right.
her legacy. She actually wanted me to be a skater, but couldn't afford that. But
But could afford dance.
yeah,
Damn.
it's different, right? Skates
It
are
is. Yeah.
they're both expensive. I mean, when you have
Yeah.
kids, but like the skates and all that stuff was different. So dance was like another option.
Hmm.
But so dance lives in my blood and in my
Mm.
culture and my family. And so when I think about my children, like my husband is also a dancer
Yep.
too. He's from Mozambique, and it's just innately in our lives. So we don't have to go out of our way to like, you need to be in a dance
Mm.
class. It's like, no, we're at home. We play music. We dance together. We have dance parties with our children.
Yeah.
My husband has drums in our home. He's got other instruments from his culture as well. So there, it's already in our home. So hopefully we can find more time to like share it with our children,
Yeah.
because we do have to be proactive about it sometimes as well. But we're trying to share as much as we can with the time that we have, as
Yeah.
much as they want to.
It's interesting also to think about the relationship of like social and professional, like
Yeah.
the relationship of dance just being a part of your household, like
Yeah.
both in your upbringing and now in the way that you're fostering your own family, and then the shift that we make when we put these lived things on stages.
Hmm.
Do you like grapple with that? Do you think about it? How do you make sense of the difference between those two things?
Yeah. I would say, like, like I'm always going to be a dancer.
Yeah.
Even if I stop making stuff for stage or for work or for public presentation,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm always going to be a dancer. I'm always going to move to music because I love
Hmm.
music. Like I love music, all types
Hmm.
of music. I love to move to it. I think I love dancing because I love music,
Hmm.
right? And so to grapple with the part of like making work, like professional work at like being like a capital A
Yeah.
artist,
Yeah.
um like I could still continue dancing without making work, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would still live through dance. I would still
Hmm.
live through music. All those things would still be a part of my life.
So why do you do it?
Why do I make work?
Why do you make work?
I know, right? Because the thrill,
Yeah.
the curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
the sharing,
Mm.
the feeling for like creating feelings for other people,
I
like
like that.
experiences for them, whether they like it or not,
Mm-hmm.
they feel something.
Hmm.
Um, I could do other things, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like I like admit, like I could do a ton of other things. And for some reason I keep coming back to this
Yeah.
making dances stuff. And I really enjoy researching and sharing and creating, even if it's for one person or for three
Yeah.
people. The process of making alone is something that also wakes me up every day,
Hmm.
as stressful as it can be. you know,
Sure do.
but it's I can't move away from it.
Yeah.
And I look at it in different contexts. I'm like, okay, making for stage, maybe making something for a classroom, making
Hmm.
something for, a different kind of context. But like the molding and making and crafting, like working on craft is something that I get excited about.
Hmm. The last time we were talking, you shared a sort of reflection on how potentially past generations of creators were able to be a little bit more in the moment. They were just like following their impulse, making work, sharing it, and it was as simple as that. And we live in a different time where I feel like there is this sense of thinking about what are we leaving behind or what are we
Yeah.
carving for the next generation or for our own peers. Do you have a response to that sense of responsibility for yourself?
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah.
I think in the moment, like in the middle and in the like deep dive of making work, I'm probably not thinking about that. And
Hmm.
that's probably when I'm thinking like on a really like micro level of like this moment right here, right now. But like if I had to zoom out and really think about like the context and like you said, like the legacy
Yeah.
of where my work lands, like yeah, I tend to zoom out and think about that context too. And
Hmm.
sometimes, I get people asking me for like photos or interviews of our company because like jazz work on stage isn't something that people see a lot of.
Yeah.
Um, so we get the eyes because it's like, oh, we haven't seen this in a long time.
Hmm.
And so I'm starting to become more cognizant of that now and aware and appreciative, but also cognizant like, okay, where do we live and what is our context in these conversations around jazz
Yeah.
in this time of our lives, right? And so I'm thinking about that more a little bit more now than I did in the
Hmm.
beginning. I'm like, I just want to do this because that's what makes me feel good right now,
Yeah.
versus like, okay, no, this is important work, and we're part of a broader conversation in the jazz landscape around the world.
I just watched the movie Sinners, and it was fantastic. I highly recommend it.
I haven't seen it yet.
But there was this theme inside of it of like appropriation, the sort of like reaping of something to be used in a more like Western aesthetic. And I know in your work you make contemporary jazz dance. Do you think about the history of how jazz has been co-opted ever?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking about that a lot. I mean, all the time. It's
Yeah.
always there,
Hmm.
right? Like, what do I call what we do? Like,
Yeah.
what's the style called? Or what do I teach? And what are the expectations of what I'm teaching when people come into my classroom? Or like, how do I write a description of what I'm going to write? And are people going to understand it versus what their ideas of jazz are based on your background? If you came from a studio that maybe prioritize like Eurocentric approaches to dances like I was, your understanding, or I guess your perception of jazz will be different than the approach that I'm working in. And so I'm always thinking about context around that. A long time ago, people were using or started using the word like authentic jazz to differentiate itself between the jazz that was taught in studios that took more of like a ballet approach.
Yeah.
So authentic is often used as a precursor, like authentic jazz, which is jazz that relates more to the African American vernacular, Charleston improvisation, solo individuality. Vernacular jazz is another term. Again, they're sort of used intertwined, like authentic or vernacular. And then sometimes people are using other things like studio jazz, theater jazz. Like the list of jazz things is getting quite long. But the key word is jazz. And what does jazz mean? And where does jazz come from? And if we can't zone in at a micro level and look at the basics of like what is jazz, then we can't really go any further to start adding a word before or after. But we have to understand that key word, which is jazz.
Yeah. When you are choreographing with Holla Jazz, is there a version of jazz that you want people to see?
Holla Jazz is interesting because it's I want to call it a meeting place a bit, right? And so the dancers that I work with, and like including myself, we're coming from various backgrounds of dances that from the diaspora.
Yeah.
So so like hip hop, house dance, Afro Caribbean, dance hall, like locking, popping, like various different styles. And I'm using jazz to kind of bring all those things together. So what we see, or I guess what one might see, depending on the work and the project and what I'm interested in sharing, like you're going to see jazz, and those who know jazz will be able to see like language and vocabulary and context that are like, okay, yeah, they're doing jazz. They I don't want to say that we know what we're doing, but they see the language of jazz in there, and that for me is important, that you can still see it, but you also get to see the person. So you see jazz, but you also see the person and their individual spirit and their lived experience in the work. Oftentimes, we're not just working from just our lived experiences, but you can get to see a person's individual quality, because we're not all dancing the same. And our personal experiences and the way that we move will impact that, right? And we don't want to all look the same.
No.
I don't want us to look the same.
I don't want us all to look the same either.
So that is a huge part of it. Like, we're moving together as individuals, but we're dancing collectively and sharing the experience together too. So that's sort of what brings us together in terms of like an ensemble work. If that makes sense?
It does. What happens when choreography meets the cinematic lens? At this year's Dance Made in Canada Fête au Canada Festival, our Dance on Film and video series brings a stunning collection of screen-based dance works to life, both in theater and online. Curated as part of our Arts Encounters program, This series features artists who are reshaping how we experience movement through storytelling, visual experimentation, and the power of editing and framing. These are not just recordings of dance, they are films made with dance at their core. Whether you're watching from your seat in the theater or streaming from home, you'll encounter movement in ways you've never imagined. Learn more and dive into the full lineup at dancemadeincanada.ca. What does a typical day in a rehearsal process look like with you and your dancers?
Well, I just got back.
Yeah.
Which is exciting to think about what a day looks like for us, and even for me to sort of plan out time, because now I've become like more conscious of my time and their time and how much time we have together. So we spend like the first hour and a half just like playing games, warming up the body, like mobility, getting music in the body, getting connected to each other, getting connected to ourselves. And then also looking at vocabulary, just like we're just going to look at jazz language for the next bit of time. And then we take a break, eat some stuff, nourish our bodies, and then we get into creation. Start building stuff through improvisation, through stuff that I've planned ahead of time, through some ideas that I want to work through with them. That's sort of what a loose idea looks like when we're getting into the space together.
Like I really think about this with the infrastructure that we have in dance for how we build ensembles. And even just you talking about like, getting the like getting jazz in our body, like to me that sounds like a version of a company class in a way. And I think about the work that I create, and I very rarely prioritize like a group training. Like we do group activities that build ensemble, but I would rarely do something that felt connected to form. But is that something that, how did that come to be for you in the scope of a day with your dancers?
I think it started out when Holla Jazz first started, and I was working with dancers who were not connected to jazz at all. Not that they weren't connected to jazz, but they were purely practicing their own form, like their own style. So I had to work with them to like basically train them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had to basically, this is the vocabulary, this is the language, this is the music, this is the phrasing. So that's how it all started. And so I kind of kept that going throughout the development of like the work that we do. So whenever we were doing a project or any rehearsal schedule, like there's always like that warm up, but that feeling of a class before we dive in. And I think getting the body prepared to enter jazz is really important and something I really value. Because I also know that they don't get an opportunity to do it a lot outside of the work that we do. So unless they're going out to a social, it's tricky to find places to practice jazz dancing in Toronto. So I want to make sure that they find a way to also have a practice within the work that we do, and so that they're prepared and feel comfortable and confident in their bodies to move forward into the work that we're making.
You talked about how you don't want everyone to look the same, that you want people's personalities and their lived experiences to shine through your work. Are there other, like, maybe the question is, what are the considerations that you make when choosing who you want to work with?
Good question. I'm super picky.
Good.
I'm super picky. Sometimes maybe a little bit too much, and maybe I have to like open up a little bit and see what else is possible. So I'm working on that. A lot of things to consider is like, because especially when we're working on a production or a project that's going to be maybe like 2 or 3 year process, maybe it's like, who do I want to be in the room with for that amount of time and on this content, on this subject matter, right? So one, it's the people, like who am I going to get along with? Who has the capacity, but also who has the potential to engage in these conversations and this movement. Whose way of moving am I excited about and inspired by? Who maybe could do this better than like anyone that I've ever seen. The dancers that I work with really inspire me, and they like make me want to be a better dancer. Even though I'm not a performer, I'm still a dancer, but I'm like, man, I want to be able to do it like that. I want to be able to dance like that. So I think about like people's capacity and potential, And also, like, who's curious?
Yeah.
Like, who's interested in this world of jazz?
Hmm.
Because it can get a little bit heady sometimes.
How so?
The music can get to people,
Okay. Yeah.
like the phrasing, the connection to music can be a little bit tricky at first for people.
Hmm.
Um, you don't see it a lot. It's not something we see a lot on stage. You sometimes see it like on like people relate it to like black and white
Yeah.
clips, like of a very specific period, like
Hmm.
period dance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to not get away from that, but like also recognize that these dances are living dances,
Yeah.
and so we need living people to also do them.
Hmm.
Um, so I would say that's sort of those are the things that I think about
Yeah.
when I'm thinking about the people that I want to collaborate with. And yeah, you got to be dope. You got to be dope. Like you got to be dope. Like yeah, you
Yeah.
got to be a dope dancer and a dope person.
I want to loop back around to a couple of threads that we've touched upon. And one was around like some people might not have the opportunity to practice jazz unless they were to go to a social. And then also the conversation of like dance being in households and in community. And then also like what is the you said like capital A artist. What is the like capital D dance
Hmm.
community? Do you have a felt definition of community or different communities for yourself?
Ooh, wow. I feel like you say communities, and I feel like sometimes there is that. There's like
Mm,
communities within a community,
yeah.
if that makes sense, right? There's like I keep going back to this word like macro and
Mm,
micro.
hmm.
Like there's like the macro community of jazz practitioners that travel the world and go to different events and workshops and teachings and teachers who share their love of the dance across the world.
Mm,
And in those communities, you have people who are doing different things, whether they're um, practicing artists who are making work for themselves, or they're just dancers for the love of dance, and
yeah.
they just want to go to the socials every night, and they're not interested in having like a career out of the form, right?
Mm,
And so I find like there's like communities within communities of things, if that makes sense.
hmm.
And if people can like find ways to connect and influence and respect each other's sort of needs and values and ways of working and the ways that they want to interact with the dance,
Yeah.
I think they can all offer a lot of beautiful things to each other.
Yeah.
I feel like the dancer who just focuses on, you know what, I just want to go out and dance to some music tonight, and
Mm,
that's where they connect with the dance. I think they can offer so much to an
mm,
artist who's maybe really concentrated on having a professional career that sometimes
yeah.
loses the love of the dance. You know what I mean?
Ah,
You know what I
interesting.
mean? So it's like,
Mm,
how do we keep the heart of the
mm,
dance when you're so much in the making of it,
yeah.
in the working of it? And that's why I think the social aspect of it is so vital,
Yeah.
because that's where it lives, that's where it's created. And so you have to still have that connection to the heart, the heartbeat of the dance, where it lives and
Yeah.
where it thrives, in order to continue making work out of it. Like I so wish I
Mm,
could get out to dance more, like to the socials. With young children, it's become more and more difficult.
yeah.
So I'm trying to carve out space to go out to dance more, because it's so important. Like that's where the dance lives.
Going back to this idea of seasons, have you ever fallen out of love with jazz and fallen back in love with it across your time?
Mm, I don't know if I've like fallen out of love. Like some things just take a
Yeah.
pause, right? It's just like pause on this thing.
Yeah.
I want to do more of this thing right now.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, like I love music,
Yeah.
and music moves me. And so like when I hear like some really like great hip hop music or really good house music, or I'm watching dancers that I'm so inspired by move to those kinds of music, I get drawn into that world.
Yeah.
Um, but I wouldn't say that I'm like, oh, I'm over
Yeah.
this community, this
Yeah.
culture, that hasn't happened to me
Mhm.
yet. I don't want to say that it will or it might not, but I
Hmm.
haven't had that experience, just because I'm trying to find different ways to interact with the form, right?
Yeah.
There's to dance it, there's to make it, there's to listen to it. There's different ways that you can
Yeah.
have a relationship with it. And so it's not just one thing. I don't just make jazz dances. That jazz is like a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And there's different ways that you can approach that lifestyle within your own life.
Yeah. I think about I think the question of do you fall in love or out of love of something came from maybe uh, the conversation of community. And sometimes I feel like I fall out of love with the industry of dance,
Yeah,
but I still
yeah,
love the form and the practice of it
yeah,
myself.
yeah.
And yeah,
No, I totally get that. Like that sometimes like the systems in place for certain
yeah,
things, like community norms or like social norms that are starting to become
yeah,
like normal that you don't agree with. So sometimes it's not the art itself, sometimes it's the people around
yeah.
it. And my mom always says like, everything would be right in the world if people weren't around. And I'm just like, that is so true, but we're always going to be
Uh,
around. But yeah, there's never been an instance where I felt like
hmm.
I'm done with this. Usually what I do is that I'm just like, I'm just going to go and hibernate and do
Yeah,
this thing in my own corner.
yeah, yeah. As a final question, I'm cheekily going to reflect back something that you said in our last conversation
Mm.
and ask you what is the heartbeat of the form? What is the heartbeat of jazz that
Ooh.
you feel like needs to continue?
Oh, what is the heartbeat?
Hmm.
It's a good question. That needs to continue.
Yeah.
That needs to continue. That's an important thing. I think I don't think it's one thing.
Hmm.
Um the individual expression, the individual experience
Hmm.
is important in there. The propulsive rhythms.
Hmm.
When I hear heartbeat, I think of propulsive rhythms, the polyrhythms,
Hmm.
um, jazz music and swung rhythms and feel.
Hmm.
Like feeling those swung rhythms in the body are of utmost importance, I think, in maintaining the values of like the dance itself.
Yeah.
But I think our relationship to music also needs to continue. Jazz dance lives with jazz
Hmm.
music, right?
Hmm.
And so continuing to evolve that relationship, because sometimes the music can steer away and the dance can start to go on its own path, but we need to sort of find each other and continue to be inspired by the music.
Yeah.
The music inspires the dance and the dance inspires the music. And the more we can kind of find that pathway with each other, I think that is the key to keeping the dance alive.
Thanks for tuning into Thrust, the Dance Made in Canada podcast. Thrust is presented by Dance Made in Canada Fête au Canada Festival, a biennial dance festival featuring dance artists from across Turtle Island with unique artistic visions from diverse backgrounds. We acknowledge that this land, colonially known as Canada, has been the site of dance for many millennia. We are grateful for the ability to dance and celebrate on Turtle Island. Thrust is produced by Mayumi Lashbrook and Taylor Zalek Young, editor and composer Jamar Powell, sound engineer Chris Dupuis at 1990 Studios, and cover photography by Marlo Porter. And I'm your host, Aria Evans. Thank you to our funders, Canadian Heritage, the Canada Council for the Arts, Ontario Arts Council, and Toronto Arts Council, and our donors and individual donors. We couldn't do this without their constant support. Find us wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to rate and review. Let dance transform you.